Hello, gamers. It's me again. It's now 11:59 on Thursday night. This episode was a little rough. There's this, um, which is a tweet from me. If you can't see the screen, it says, "I cannot explain how cursed Aizyesque and I's recording session for tomorrow's episode of Overtime on Inferno was. Our software crashed 3 times. Looking back at it, I think it was actually 4." 2 times on each of our ends, and the video files were doing some weird spooky shit in Premiere. So obviously Halloween is real now. The important thing to get from this, though, is that if you're watching on YouTube, sorry, there's no video. If you're watching this on Spotify, I'm sorry for Elliot's mechanical keyboard noises, and I'm sorry that you had to pay attention to this disclosure at the beginning. And if you're not rating and reviewing us, why not? Smile. Get on with the podcast. Welcome to Overtime on Inferno, your weekly roundup of all the biggest news in CSGO. Quicker than we're back to our regularly scheduled, regularly staffed shows. If you could rate and review us at the end of the podcast, that would really help us. My name is Logan. This is Aizyesque. We're back.
We're back. Well, yeah. Well, I'm back. You were back already, weren't you?
Yeah, I did a 12-minute solo podcast, which was, for those of you who have never done a solo podcast, the most awkward thing to do is just stare in a camera and talk with no script for 12 minutes.
Have you ever tried streaming?
I have. I stream TFT every once in a while.
Yeah, it's kind of similar.
Yeah. But
except
at least
there's
then,
no game to bounce off, I suppose.
I mean, here's the thing. When I stream TFT or like Counter-Strike or something, I end up talking about the game out loud, even if I'm not streaming. Like I kind of just do my thought process, so it works out. Okay, not the point.
You're that kind of guy. You just talk
I'm
to
that
yourself.
kind of guy. Okay, so as this works out, we're actually going to talk about not Counter-Strike for a minute. Well, not directly related to Counter-Strike.
Yeah, Counter-Strike-ish.
For you, definitely not for me. You may have noticed that last 2 weeks were a little weird. That's because 2 weeks ago I traveled for work and we couldn't get something together. And last week, both of you were busy with work. And we want to talk about last week specifically because both of us were involved in totally different esports things last week from each end.
Yeah.
You were part of the production staff for the North American RMR, and I went to Worlds for League of Legends as a spectator. So I guess this is weird doing an interview of your co-host. It's fucking weird.
It might be easier if I just talk.
Yeah. You want to talk about what that was?
So obviously, I say obviously, you might not know. I was doing ticker before for DreamHack and occasionally ESL, like just writing the little bits at the bottom, nice and chill, nice relax, simple stuff. The producer of the Road to Rio Americas wanted me as an associate producer for this event. So I was essentially in charge of content, storylines, and like just making sure we had all the videos or the graphics and the run of show made sense for like pre-match, pre-show, stuff like that. Completely new role for me, a lot more involved, a lot more stress, and a lot more, a lot to learn. I made one pretty big mistake at the end, but realistically, I think everyone makes a big mistake like that's production. Like everyone you're allowed one. I made one that I think was not unforgivable, but like I'm still annoyed about it days later. But yeah, I mean that's production for you. Like sometimes you make mistakes, but we had a great storyline. We had Imperial coming back from 1-2, winning 4 games in a row to qualify for the Rio Major, and I was like, I was there. I was on site. I said congratulations to Fallen as he left. It was amazing. I just wanted to do that.
How much of a VMix shill are you now after doing producing?
So I wasn't really live producing. The producer wanted me to live produce and was basically told not on an IEM product. Like you don't throw somebody into live
for the
producing
for,
for their first time in the middle of an IEM event. Like if it's an ESL challenger, they might have let me do it. Like you have to learn somehow. Like everyone has a
yeah
first event. That first event shouldn't be the
Road to
qualifier to
Rio
what
and
is probably the biggest event ESL have ever done. Maybe the biggest event anyone in CS has ever done. And they're like, yeah, we'll just throw you on to live produce for a few hours. Like, doesn't seem like a great idea to me. I was kind of shitting it, and when he was like, "Oh yeah, I've been told I'm not allowed," I was like, I'm gutted, but also very much relieved.
So you're
Um,
not a VMix shill yet, but you will be at one point.
no, I don't know if we use. I don't know
Everyone
how we
uses
do
VMix.
things.
Okay, not the
I have no idea. It's not really my area of expertise yet.
we're a
This
little rusty on this
this
old
happens so regularly.
we're a little rusty on the old podcasting thing.
Yeah.
I went to Worlds this weekend, which has been different than every other event I've gone to because I
Because it was
hadn't
about League of
been.
Legends.
Well, not just because it was about League of Legends, but it was the way that Counter-Strike has put on their events and the
Mm-hmm.
way that Riot puts on their events is very different, it feels like, but also very similar. There's a picture that exists somewhere that I'll have Beef put in the episode, um, of like where I was sitting and stuff, but it wasn't giant arena for the entire
Mm-hmm.
thing, and that does have to do with the fact that I went to group stages. But it was 5,000 people in a
Mm-hmm.
theater, like, and no one was standing the entire time. There wasn't like posters allowed in or anything, which I was a little weirded about, but whatever. Um, and it felt like the production value was simultaneously higher but also lower than Counter-Strike events. It was very odd.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did though. I was the one of the only people though to recognize Miss Harvey while I was there,
I did see that.
which
Yeah.
was odd because she's not a league person but works for CLG, and I went to the CLG pregame, so it was kind of weird. Apparently, there will be other people there this week from Counter Strike, even though it is still a League of Legends thing. But
Yeah, I mean, there's a decent level of overlap. I mean, it is another
yeah,
game. It's another esport. Like if you're into esports, it makes sense. You want to like try other ones. Like you never know when Counter Strike might die. You might have to, change path.
yeah, exactly. I've got a backup. All right,
You've got two backups.
I've
You
got
got
plenty of
Valorant as
backup.
well.
I've got hey, TFT, real esport right there.
Yeah,
Um,
well, like I'm just waiting for Tony Hawk's to come back as an esport. I'm
Tony
waiting
Hawk could
for.
come back. I mean, at this point, podcasting could be its own esport. We're pretty good at that.
Jury's out, I think.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So some other things happened this week. Some actually Counter Strike related things, which is kind of insane. The whole RMR thing happened, and I did my little solo pod, and I started joking about, look at that, G2 and Astralis are 1 and 2, and they may not make the play. They may not make the major, but like obviously, surely they make the major. And then neither of them made the major.
Yeah, I don't know if you know Slevo.
I do. I
He's
know
a
of him. I don't know him. But
Dust2.us writer. So we were live with the RMR, obviously upstairs. I was in the production room, and he messaged me like, "You need to get down here," and I was like, What's going on?" Because we were live, and I was like, I can't really just like just run away just to say hello to you. And then he was like, "Oh yeah, Astralis has been eliminated. We're celebrating down here." So I see. We're celebrating the downfall of Blame F. I see. Makes
hey,
sense.
yeah. I mean,
I mean, look, Astralis are doing some wild shit right now.
we'll
Like
talk
there's a
about Astralis in a
lot
minute.
going on with that team.
We're gonna need a whole section on Astralis. I want to talk
Yeah,
about RMR to start with, and then we'll talk about
yeah.
G2 and Astralis after. Um, let's start with Europe. Um, some weird shit went on.
Yeah, so I didn't watch many of the games, but I kept as up to date as I possibly could with results. And I don't know if watching the games is going to make any of it make any more sense.
As someone who watched the game, absolutely not.
Like I think I watched a little bit of the Bad News Eagles game at one point. I watched like some. I can't remember what other. I think I watched some Mouse versus Sangal at some point.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? Group B, which was the group with Navi, Ents, Heroic, OG, right? Everything went exactly as you expected. Not teams winning exactly as you expected, but the top 8 teams in that group were the top 8 teams, right? So Navi, Ents, Heroic, OG, Vitality, Big, Mouse, and Outsiders. They were the top 8 team.
Yeah.
They moved on. This made sense. Group A was a clusterfuck. And that's the
Yeah.
nicest way I can say that. And I truly mean that, because it's who's in the bottom here? Oh, Astralis is. Forza is. G2 is. Eternal Fire, who just had a decently okay pro league showing that like was maybe hopeful. Okay, maybe not decently hopeful, but like showed some fight.
Yeah, so like Eternal Fire, I don't know, they don't have firepower because Paz isn't the same player he used to be. Like Major has Valorant aim. It's unfortunate, but he just does. Like he just has Valorant aim at the moment. Woxic's not as good as he used to be. Will he ever be as good as he used to be? Probably not. Jantares is still good. That's one positive point. I can't even remember who the fifth is off the top of my head.
It was Emor, and then it wasn't.
Emor,
It is
yeah,
Emor
and
still.
then it is Emor, and now they've got X Floud in for Major, so they're going back to playing with Woxic as the in-game leader, which didn't really work properly last time. There's a reason you tried a different in-game leader, but you're limited by the talent that's in Turkey, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to build a Turkish team, and the only other players that would be worth you picking up are on Sangal, who are arguably a better team right now.
I don't even know if it's arguably. I think they're just a better team right now. Even though they didn't qualify for ESL Challenger League because they were playing in an RMR and then had a best of 5 like an hour later.
Yeah, that was a fun situation.
If only they were owned by the same company and could figure out shit between each other on scheduling. If only. Yeah, I don't think Gamer Legion's like a bad team. Like let's be clear. I think they're probably pretty good. But you look at the rest of the names in the group, right? There's like top 9 who are like really fighting for it, right? FaZe, NIP, Spirit, Cloud9, Bad News Eagles. I put Sprout there, Fnatic, Astralis, G2, right? Those are the teams I kind of expect in the major at this point. I expect Sprout to like get in on the very end, and Bad News Eagles to like somehow magically do shit, because they kind of do when it comes to major qualifications. I mean, we saw it last time. And I don't have much faith in the Gamer Legion team in like high pressure situations, and especially right after they've just moved 2 players. But even if we include them, there's 10 teams looking like with legitimate like hopefuls for the major slot. And if I had to like knock 2 of them down, it's probably like Sprout and Gamer Legion, or Gamer Legion and Bad News Eagles, or Sprout and Bad News Eagles. But like it just before RMR, right? You just look at the names, right? Or Fnatic somewhere in there, right? And those,
I was pretty certain Astralis weren't making it.
To be fair, you and I have been
Honestly,
very down
I
on Astralis
really
recently,
was.
but I would have expected one of those 4 teams to not make it over G2. Like
G2 was the biggest surprise. Like G2 genuinely looked good at Pro League. Like
yeah,
they've looked a lot better since the arrival of Hooksy for the most part. Like Monacy was a completely different player. Like, and then they have just shit the bed. Like there's no other word for it. They just shit the bed. Like they seriously just fucking choked. Like there really is no other way you can describe what they just did. Because there's no way, regardless of what you think of these players, regardless of what you think of G2 as an org, regardless of what circumstances you think surround them, regardless of what you think about Hooksy as a fragger, there is no way a team with this amount of firepower should be going out of the RMR 1-3.
yep.
Not 2-3. Not like, they lost a hotly contested game against like a Gamer Legion where Acor drops 85 frag. They went 1-3 with Nico, Hunter, Monacy, JKS, and
Yeah, they had
Hooksy.
no subs, right? Astralis had Mistamin for config. Now, like the
Yeah, exactly.
aside,
Like with them, you're like,
the config shit aside,
probably...
right? Even if config was playing, right, I don't put as much faith in them as I put in G2. But G2 had their full roster, who just got to a Pro League semifinals, right, and lost to Vitality, who's been very hot recently. This team hasn't changed insanely like the core is still the same from when they did well a couple months ago. This team like 2 majors ago was in the finals and almost managed to beat Navi to get to win the finals, right? Like that this team hasn't changed that drastically that somehow you go from a major grand finals to not qualifying
One
the
and three at the
major
RMR.
with the same core in a year. It's not like Nico and Hunter have just magically become garbage players, right? Like
No, it's there's no like rationalization you can do with it, are there? Like there's no way you can frame this that even makes it make sense. Like I'd have to go back and watch the games to like try and figure out exactly what went wrong. But there's like from the outside looking in, there's like no justification for anything that just happened with G2. Astralis, you can say like, oh, there's problems with config. They've not been in great form. They had a stand-in. Zipnix doesn't look that good. Like there's clearly issues around Astralis. They kicked the coach like today.
yeah.
Configs, like there was clearly issues with Astralis where it was like this was entirely foreseeable.
Yeah.
With G2, the only way you could have foresaw what just happened is by going, well, it's G2, they'll fuck it up somehow. That's literally the only justification for what just happened.
If you said that before, you just go, nah, you're a fucking G2 hater. No one cares, right? There's no way this team doesn't make the major. There's nothing there.
But it's also like, for whatever reason, G2 and Counter-Strike always shit the bed. And I don't know why.
So I want a little statistic thing that I'm making up on the top of my head, right? We have the HLTV world rankings. Well, there's a statistic backed in stuff, but I more want to put this in reference, right? All 5 of the top 5 teams in the world made the major. 9 out of the 10 top teams in the world made the major. The one exception being G2 currently.
Yep.
Was it 12 out of the top 15 teams in the world made the major? The 3 being Astralis, Movistar Riders, who have their own excuses, and
they lost the star upon which they orbit.
I will give a pass, and G2.
Yeah.
And of the top 20 in the world, what is that? 16 of them made the major. And one of them was Complexity, and Imperial made it. And there's not much I can.
Yeah, Complexity were the victims of magic.
Yeah, Complexity
There's nothing they could do. Complexity came up against plot armor. Yeah. There's nothing they could do. Yeah. Imperial had the most ridiculous plot armor I've ever seen.
And of the top 25 teams, there's only 2 more to add into there that didn't make the major. Basically, if you look at the top 25, I won't go to top 30 because that's a little there's a bunch of American teams there and it becomes a little complicated with the way American RMR works. Basically all of the top 25 made it, and if they didn't, there's a legit reason, right? You have Movistar Riders who just moved on from Sun Pius and to be fair, made the major. Imperial
comfortably.
Comfortably. Well. Complexity who got Brazil diffed. Like Brazil, like
they got plot armor.
They got plot armored. Like
there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do when like dude, 14-14, third map to take Imperial to Rio, Fallen hits a collateral. You cannot tell me that this wasn't scripted. You can't tell me it wasn't powered by magic.
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. We're not done with Europe yet. But my point is there's like 5 teams in the top 25 that didn't make it, and 3 of them have legitimate excuse. 2 of them have legitimate excuses. One of them is
One is Complexity.
Eternal Fire exists, right? Like
Eternal Fire is like they're kind of. I don't know what they're doing up there.
But anyway. My point is the major is the time where we have 24 teams or whatever in the major. All 24 of them should be there. Like the top, it should be the top 24. And this seems to me like the first year or the first major in a very long time that it's not like everyone that I really expected to be at the major isn't here. No matter the shit I give about Astralis and the shit I give about G2, because like I'm a hopeless North American fan. I have to give shit to these teams, right? Like you expect to see them in the biggest tournament of the year.
Certainly G2.
Certainly G2. And
Astralis, the writing's been on the
here's the
wall
thing.
for a while, but G2 was just out of nowhere that
I
they
said
should
the
have made.
last major that Strauss wasn't going to get there, and they got some fucking plot armor to get in. Like, I expected a
Yep.
Strauss plot armor to exist. Like, apparently the plot armor got transferred to Imperial.
Yeah, like it's a Rio mate. Like there was no way Fallen was missing a Rio major. Like like that guy talks in quotes. Like Fallen actually just talks in like riddles and quotes. It's amazing. Like we interviewed him at the start for like content for ESL, and he said some stuff like on the record that was like pretty spicy. He was talking about this is my last shot at a major, like stuff like that. Like when the camera was off, like he said something along the lines of, "We don't talk about my legacy until I win. When we win, we talk about my legacy." And that's just fucking cold. Like it's just a great quote. Like I wish he'd said it on camera. What a great quote.
All right, let's talk.
He was not
Let's
missing.
talk about Merca. And I really do mean Merca in this because Merca, Liquid and EG taking the top 2 spots. You expect one of them. I didn't expect the other to make the major, so
yeah. EG, I have to hold my hands up. Genuinely impressive. Like
today,
you know what? For all the shit we've given them over the last few months, it's only right for me to go. You know what? Fair fucking play, because they shit on people. They were genuinely good, and from what I gather, Neelan's stock is going through the roof. Like they think he's a genius. They think he's like a really really good in-game leader, and like from what I've heard from other people, like he knows his shit. Like he knows what he's doing, and they have a coach who knows how to overperform at majors. They took Liquid. He does. Like he knows how to win. Like he knows how to prepare people for a major.
For those who aren't aware of the EG coach, because it's complicated, it's Vorberg from Copenhagen Flames, also assistant coach Malik.
Yep. And Valens is also
Valens
there.
Also exists, and I think Hepa may be back, who was the analyst from Liquid a couple of years ago. Like they actually have
it's convoluted.
They have a really good support structure there.
Yeah. They were genuinely impressive. I mean, they took Liquid, who we on this podcast have talked about being like top 5 in the world, definitely, maybe 3rd in the world, maybe 4th.
And that's not that's him.
They took them
to delusional North American fans.
Yeah, that is me. And they took them to overtime on 2 maps. Okay, they lost it, but
who cares?
They were close to beating them, and Automatics in like ridiculous form. Cirque's like not bad anymore. Breezy's not bad again. Hexter's like a useful piece. Like he's not like I thought he'd be a weak link, but he looks fine as like the floor player. Like he's pretty reasonable.
Fine is kind of all they need as like a last person.
Yeah,
like, there's no problems with being fine.
He's not expected to be brilliant, and he's doing his job like perfectly well. Like you can't. There's nothing you can say bad about what Hex is doing on this team because he hasn't done anything wrong yet.
Teams that made it from America, Liquid, Evil Geniuses, obviously. 9Z back to the major, which I thought was impressive by them.
NQZ is gonna shit on some people.
Yeah,
he doesn't miss. Like he's like 17, and he literally just doesn't miss. Like I mean, obviously AWPing at tier 2, if you don't have like a 1.4 rating, it's not that impressive. But like, I mean, they coasted through. Like they were not like sweating at any point. They beat Imperial and 00 Nation, I think. Like they just genuinely just looked really good. Waltzed through, qualified with ease.
Yep.
I mean, they're really like becoming a dream wrecker.
Yeah.
In South America, I respect the shit out of them. NQZ is like he's gonna win them some games. He's talented.
00 Nation made it. I have a small like problem with how they made it.
Being
they only played other South American teams until having to.
I mean, that's more impressive.
Yeah, I guess so, but I don't know. I would have liked to be fair, there's almost, you know what, never mind. There's like 90% South American teams here.
Yeah, it was like there was like 6 North American teams and the rest were all South American.
Fury,
and there was only one full North American team. We'll get to it in a little bit. But
Oh yeah,
yeah, no. 9Z, like a South American mix, like Uruguay, Brazil, Argentina, and Chile
yeah.
on that
It's a
team.
weird.
They qualify for back-to-back majors. They're doing something
Yeah.
right.
Furia made it like
Yeah.
good. Uh,
I know they were feeling the pressure when they lost, like they lost 16-14 to EG in a best of one, and they were like, they were feeling the pressure because they were basically like, yeah, we know like that happens, you lose best of ones, but no, there's pressure now. Like do the Brazilian fans understand that? Like we have to be in Rio. Like they were like feeling it.
I
Like,
think
but
there.
they qualified and
My guess is there's probably also one of the well, we just lost to EG kind of things because that was EG's second match, right? And they had beaten
yeah,
Nouns, who we'll get to in a minute. Um, yeah. Imperial, as we've alluded to in a huge amount,
the protagonists.
plot armor, favorites to win the major at this point. Would put money
Yeah,
on
like,
them.
you can't stop them. Like it's not possible. But it literally when it's round 29 and Fallen hits a collatch, I was just like, yeah, there's literally no way they lose. Like they are powered by magic. There's no other reason they should be better than Complexity if it's not magic.
Yeah. Imperial plot armor is the greatest thing. Complexity, who again, super devastating that they didn't make it. Because
Yes, but also they should have.
yeah, they should. Here's the thing:
There's no
they
excuse.
should have made it. But looking at the 6 teams, right? The only team that they may have been able to make it over is like 0 Nation.
9Z.
I think 9Z is a really good team. I said this
I
after.
do,
No, I said this after the last
but this is
major, but
complex. Like this is complexity. Like they're one of the biggest teams in the region. They should be
to be
there. Like
fair,
you can make excuses all you want. They should be there, and they know they should
to
be
be
there.
fair, they should have made it over Imperial.
Yeah, they
But
should have made it
yeah,
with Imperial. Like the amount they spend on the team, like the resources they have, the players they have, like they should be better than 9Z. Like they're not, but they should be,
yeah.
and that is cause for concern. And I'm pretty sure they're concerned.
Um, yeah. Payne did not make it. I think it was our first kind of unfortunate loss of having only 6 teams come out of America.
I felt so bad because Big Uzira told us like in an interview, like he's from Rio. He's like, if I make it to play in that arena, I'm gonna bring my granddad to come watch me play. Like and it's like I was like, when they went out, I was like, I want Imperial to go through, but I feel so bad for Big Uzira. Like, I just really wanted him to play in the arena, but unfortunately, there's like no room for sentiment. But it would have just been so nice to have 8 spots
Yeah,
from the Americas for a Rio Major. But
I have a
what are you
I have
gonna
a
do?
way to fix the RMRs that we'll talk about after this. It'll be a very quick conversation.
All right.
Nouns, which is the only full North American team,
Yeah.
who you may not have heard of if you don't care about America, which is understandable.
They were called Squirtle
They were called
Squad,
Squirtle
which
Squad
is a
for a
better
minute.
name than Nouns, but
They are
Nouns gave them money.
they're
So
ex Gaming Gladiators. Is
Mhm.
basically this is the team of the people who were previously labeled all as troublemakers. They kind of all congregated onto one team.
yeah, certainly between Cynic and Sixty, there's like, you know, there's some skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
But I mean, George Snorts was like, first of all, brilliant name. Second of all, like, I don't know where he's been hiding. He is like a decent player, and you like look at his like events, and he's like, oh yeah, he does like decently well at kind of bad tournaments. And then when he plays other tournaments, he's like fine. He's like a 1.08 player, like he's pretty decent. At this event, he was like he looked like automatic. Like he looked like old breezy. He was destroying teams on his own, and I don't know if he was just like, I don't know if he's just like a big game player. Like when the major's on, he's just like evolved. I don't know if he's like just hit like a peak. I don't know if he's genuinely just really good and I've just never noticed. But he was really, really good in this event. And the only reason Nouns ever looked like they might qualify was because George Schnortz was going absolutely berserk. He had 100 kill series. Like a best of 3 against Oplano, he got 100 kills.
Yeah. This team, under the Squirtle Squad name,
Spooky.
played in Philadelphia a little bit ago. And they actually didn't. They ended up ninth, 12th. But they
Hmm.
almost made playoffs. They legitimately did look like a decent team. But they looked even better here at the RMR, which has better competition. Like, let's be clear.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like they after the first game, I was kind of a bit worried for them. I was like, this is because I came in kind of expecting them to be decent. They had a really high seed. They got players that I know are decent. Their results are pretty good. They just got signed. Like I was like, these guys are probably pretty decent. And they got blown out by EG. And then when you look back at it, you're like, okay, that's kind of reasonable. And I think they lost the next game as well,
Yeah,
if I
no,
remember
they
rightly.
beat Infinity like very convincingly.
Oh, okay. Infinity were awful. Like
Yeah,
they were
yeah, they
terrible.
beat Infinity, then they
Um,
lost to Pain, then they beat Oplano, and then they lost to
yeah,
Imperial. Like they didn't have a bad
yeah.
showing.
Which is like, yeah, like you wouldn't be too disappointed, and I'm sure they learn a decent amount as well. And I'd say like George Snorts he was probably the biggest revelation of the event. Like he was like lights out. He was really good.
Let's talk about other teams that I'm a little sad didn't make it. ATK.
Yeah, they got smacked by 9Z. Like
Yeah,
if you look at like the stats for the event in terms of players, like all of the ATK players are like really bad. Like at one point they as a team had the second lowest rating while they were in the playoff, like in the 2-2 games, because they got annihilated by 9Z so badly it just screwed their stats up.
yeah,
Um they're good, but they're just not there yet.
yep.
They're just not quite
There's
there
not
yet.
much more to say other than that. I have faith in this team on a longevity bit, but
Yeah.
did not this second. Isurus, I'm gonna kind of skim through the rest of these. Well, some of them. Isurus looked, yeah.
Whatever. They looked fine. They looked better than I expected, but not good enough that it really mattered.
MIBR still exists as a team apparently.
MIBR, like that's embarrassing for them. They're like one of the biggest teams. They got fucking Brazil in their
Yeah,
name, and they're not even going
I
to
mean
Brazil.
they
Like,
signed Henny recently too. It's not like they don't have actual players.
yeah,
So
but they kicked their in-game leader to do it, and you can
yeah.
tell.
Um, a quick little overtime on Inferno prayer for Team One not making it.
Yeah, they looked not
Yeah, but
good.
no Malbs.
They looked
But no
really not good.
Malbs.
Yeah, I know, but they did not deserve. He was absolutely gutted after like their first game. He was, I think it was like the first day they went 0-2, and he was like really gutted. He was like, "I've let my team down. Like this is all on me." And it was like, you're like maybe if they had a game plan that wasn't just pray mouths, it's 4-1 Deeks, they might be all right. But
Um, Oplano did not make it. Didn't expect this team to. This team was kind of put together very quickly recently.
yeah,
Of
that team is like there's always a Brazilian team that's just the leftover bits who aren't very good anymore, and they were just that
it always
team.
seems to involve KNG.
Yeah, funny that.
Uh, this was the team that was actually coached by Zeus at the last minute because apparently their coach couldn't make it or something, and so Zeus,
Yeah,
like as a favor, came out of
yeah,
NFT retirement to
yeah,
come and coach.
yeah. He gave quite an open interview with Dust2.us about coming back and like the heart attack and everything about it. It's quite a good read. I recommend it.
God, we are really shilling for Dust2.us this time.
I mean, I like it was an America's
Yeah,
RMR.
good point.
What do you want?
Arctic and Infinity, just nothing inspired from them.
Yeah, Arctic have like history, who's pretty good, and like nothing else. Infinity, look, after day one, they'd played 2 games and hadn't won a CT side round.
Yeah.
Just move on.
Yep. Okay. We'll very very quickly talk about the Asian RMR, which was like surprisingly a little bit different than I expected it
Yeah,
to happen.
what happened to Rare Atom? Because
We've talked
they
about
should be
we've
qualifying,
talked about Rare
and
Atom a lot on this podcast for a team that is a full China team. Like
for a team that really isn't very good.
yeah.
We've talked about them way too much. But did you see the round against Greyhound? And if you've seen it, you'll know exactly what round I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So they were 15-13 up at the time, I believe. So, on match point. And Advent's in a 1 versus 1. Oh, he's in a 1 versus 2 on Vertigo. He like does the jump round the generator, kills the first guy, lovely stuff. Hits the next guy. He's got like less than 10 HP, and he just like misses every bullet. Can't find him in the smoke. Still can't find him in the smoke. Like taps the bomb, finds him, and then jumps around the corner and misses every bullet. Dies. They go on to lose the map, the series, and go 0-2 and go out. And it's just like, yeah, that basically covers Chinese Counter Strike.
Yeah. There's
That's it.
What I do want to talk about here though is, so IHC we've seen before, right?
Yeah.
We've actually seen them in the major, I believe, last.
Pronounce all of their names now.
Blitz, Score, Annihilation, Cabal, and Techno.
Now they're real names. It's my favorite game.
It's not.
Their names are unpronounceable.
Mongolian team, man. It's literally impossible for me as a uncultured American to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But there, I don't think that the team that made it out, which may surprise you, was Greyhound and IHC. I don't think that those two were the teams that anyone thought would make it out.
After I had Rare Atom as probably favourites, and then after that it's a complete toss up. Like I don't know if GG How are any good because I've only seen two of their players play.
They have face crack, they're fantastic.
Yeah, I know exactly. That's exactly what I was worried about.
They have face crack, they're perfect. There's no problem.
Yeah, but if you're gonna play against like Chinese teams,
that face
you can't just over peak. That's their thing. Like you're like going down to their level and they beat you with experience. Like,
happy to see that Greyhound made it though. Okay, so here comes my problem with the RMRs. Is I want more representation. I think that Asian RMR needs to be pulled out to 8 teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 8 teams, 2 spots.
8 teams, 2
reasonable.
spots seems more reasonable than 4
but
teams.
But then, yeah, I guess it's fine.
Here's the thing. It's not that I think that more teams should make it. Like, they historically do not perform well unless you're Renegades and have JKS and Azure, who are the 2 best players from the region.
Or Tyloo that one.
Or Tyloo that one. Okay. Yeah, but like, unless you are like a generational team from that region, like that Renegades roster was, then you're not going to make a huge thing at the major. But I also think that it's really shitty to the rest of the teams that are in the region. This region, right, is so big because it's including teams from Israel, teams from Mongolia, teams from China, teams from Thailand if they had a team, Japan if Korea, they had, right, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, right, India, right. It's such a huge region, right, like geographically, that these teams don't ever get to compete against each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the team from Mongolia doesn't play Greyhound ever because it's impossible, right? The teams from China and Israel don't play together, obviously, because it's impossible, right? So I think that the Asian RMR, right, should be bigger because if we want to bring these teams and have them get better at all, they're in their own little scrim bubbles, right? Like, yep. Greyhound only ever gets to play against the former Chiefs team, and like, that's it.
Yeah, like because especially as a lot of the Australian orgs are struggling for money anyway, or pulling out, or
yeah. But like, the point is
so they really don't even have any domestic competition.
Yeah, so they go play FPL at like 100 ping or whatever, right? Like, that's so. If we want teams from this region to do better, we should stop limiting them on when they get their international play, right? Like, this is a huge international play event. Like, obviously you don't have European teams here, or you don't have the North Americans or the Brazilians, right? But it's still better than playing the same 3 Chinese teams if you're Rare Atom, right? It's like, because if you're Rare Atom, you're only scrimming Tyloo and VC, and that's it. So. That's my issue with the Asian RMR.
There's Wings Up as well, actually. Wings Up are a good team. Yeah, no, so Tyloo they're just dog shit now. Like, Rare Atom are miles better, Wings Up are miles better. Like, if you're gonna have 2 Chinese teams, it should be those 2. But yeah, I agree. If we have 2 spots out of 8 teams. Like 2 spots out of 4 teams doesn't make any sense. Like it's
Like,
just nonsense.
the teams qualify through a close qualify for each of the region, right? There's an Oceania,
Yeah.
a China, an Asia, and a Middle East. Just
Yeah.
gives us the top 2 from each region instead of just the
Yeah.
top 1.
Yeah.
It's very simple. I also think that the America's RMR should be split into a South America and a North America RMR.
Yeah, especially for this event. I think that would have been better, but
I don't even think just for this event. I think you can make them a little bit smaller. I think just give me more North American spots. That's all I ask for.
I think you could keep it at 3 and 3, and that would be fine. Like 3 North
3
American,
and 3
3
would
South
be fine,
American.
but like split.
But even then, 3 North American seems high. I don't know.
I mean, I can think of 3 North American teams that should have made this major right now. Like,
yeah, but complexity didn't for a reason.
yeah, because they got plot armored.
And they wasn't the only team they lost to, though, was it?
Yeah, but they got plot armored at the end. Who cares? So I think that's gonna be it right here. If you haven't noticed that we've had issues with our recorder, well,
yeah, this is
great job.
I don't even know if the people are going to hear any.
Great
of this
job to
because,
our editor. If you don't notice that we had issues.
Yeah, I'm not even sure you'll hear half of this episode, to be honest, because we've had some severe issues with our recording software. It's been like we go like 2 weeks without being here, and the whole world is broken. Like Zencast is just not working anymore, unfortunately.
Yep. So I guess we'll do the rapid fire round of things at the end, because there's obviously giant things that we haven't mentioned, like TSM's coming back to Counter-Strike, and
Config.
I'm sorry, Device.
Benched.
Device seems that he's getting signed back to Astralis and has paid part of his transfer fee or something.
Yeah. Oh, so I can't. Never mind. I can't say anything. Never mind.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna end on that. We're gonna end on that. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at TLDR, at ReadTLDR, at Aizyesque, and at Mechatronic. We'll be back again next week. There's no Counter-Strike for a minute.
There's Rotterdam starting Friday.
ESL
to have a
Challenger.
nice 7:30 a.m. start.
Well, we will see all of you again next week.
Goodbye.